welcome and thank you for coming to the 2018 Light the Capitol Purple for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Ceremony. Our ceremony this afternoon is going to begin with an opening prayer from Reverend Brad Urbach, retired pastor with Faith Lutheran Church in Pierre.
It's in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we are gathered in this beautiful rotunda today to celebrate your goodness to us. As we do this, we are here to support those who are fighting pancreatic cancer, to honor the survivors, to remember those who have been taken from us. As we bathe this rotunda today in regal purple, we ask that you bless all those participants. Bless the songs they share, the words they speak. May we all be encouraged to fight the good fight and run the good race. We too are mindful on this day as we gather in the security of this state building, of those in Pittsburgh who had a terrible calamity at their synagogue. We are mindful of those kind of events as we come to remember those who serve in law enforcement and those who strive to worship freely. So bless that situation, Father, and give to them strength and the ability to overcome. Give, we pray, this day, wisdom and vision for all those seeking to find a cure, that this hostile disease may be overcome. Thank you, Father, for those who have planned this statewide event, and bless the travels of all those who have ventured forth on this day. This we ask in our Lord's most healing name. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Urbach. I ask you now to please stand if you're able, remove your hats, and place your hand over your heart as Mr. Ben Orsbon and Miss Alyssa Kaler lead us in our country's national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Ben and Alyssa. John Moisen, who'll be welcoming you in just a moment. If you know John at all, you know that he's a very passionate person about his family, about his service to his country, his art, the outdoors, and his status as a pancreatic cancer survivor. Those who know him personally will tell you he's willing to share that passion with anyone he meets, anywhere he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. John Moisen.
Hi, thank you very much for coming today. My name is John Moisen. I am a pancreatic cancer survivor. 4 years and 4 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 2B pancreatic cancer, and my life was saved by my family doctor, who's here today. Why are we here today? That's why I'm up here, to tell you why we're here today. The first thing I'd like to do is thank all of the medical professionals that take care of cancer patients and other people for colds and flu and whatever. These people have the hard jobs of trying to figure out what's wrong with us when we go in, and we go in there and we say, we got this and we got that and we got this, and they're the people that actually take care of us. And I'd like to just have you all give a special thank you to the doctors and the nurses and the medical professionals that take care of us. Secondly, I'd like to thank, there's about 60 people that have volunteered to help sponsor this event. Those include the high school students here that are here and up on the steps, the Student Senate, the Chamber Choir, state employees that I've worked with for 20 or 30 or so years or more, and professional people from around Pierre and Fort Pierre that have come to help put this event together. Among those 60 people are 18 people that know a little bit about cancer. A lot of them have had up close and personal experiences with cancer. We got a brain cancer survivor. We have a multiple myeloma cancer survivor. We have 5 pancreatic cancer survivors, 2 breast cancer survivors, 2 members of the clergy that have prayed with people as they're dying from cancer and pancreatic cancer. And finally, committee members who have been caregivers to people who have died from cancer. One person had her husband die in her lap. So I'd like to say a special thank you to those people. And the reason that they're there is we know just a little bit about cancer. Unfortunately, we know a little bit about cancer. I want to introduce a real special guy. 4 years and 4 months ago, I ended up on his front porch in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I read about him in the Sioux Falls paper. The article said that he was a pancreatic cancer survivor, and I had just been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and I didn't know what to do. I felt like a lost soul on the planet. And his name is Steve Yedwabnik. Now, everybody calls him Steve Yed because nobody can pronounce his last name. It's Yedwabnik. Steve is back here at the Pancreas Cancer Action Network table. Steve has celebrated his 12th year without pancreatic cancer. After the event, feel free to stop by and talk to Steve if you have any questions, or any of us for that matter. Any of us on the committee, we all got a flower on, I think. And if you have a question, just ask. We're not afraid to talk about it. Pancreatic cancer, that's why we're here. It reminds me of a song written and sung by Joni Mitchell in 1969 called Big Yellow Taxi. And the second verse goes like this. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They've paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Let that sink in a minute. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. That describes pancreatic cancer to a T. It's one of those diseases you don't know you have it. There's no cause. There's no cure. There's no reliable detection test. And there are very few symptoms. It's a very scary thing that sneaks up on you when you go to the doctor and the doctor says you got pancreatic cancer and you say, I don't know, I'm not sick. What are you talking about? Some of the pancreatic cancer organizations and researchers have put together a list, and it's in everyone's program. There's a little diagram in there that talks about some of the discrete, and I emphasize the word discrete symptoms of pancreatic cancer. And when I talk about these, I'm talking about everybody in this room and everybody listening to watch your friends, watch your relatives, watch yourself, and pay attention to your body, everybody, and pay attention to your friend's body and your family's body. Those symptoms are upper or lower abdominal pain. That can happen to everybody every day. Loss of appetite, that happens to all of us. pain in your stomach after eating. A lot of us have that. We eat chili and hamburgers and all of that kind of stuff and onions, and it gives us a pain in our stomach. Unintended weight loss is what I had. I lost 11 pounds in a year. That was the only symptom that I had, was weight loss. I got a real quick story about that. My doctor says, "You've lost too much weight. We're going to do a CAT scan." I said, "I feel fine. I'm not sick." He says, "I don't care. We're doing a CAT scan anyway." I said, "But I'm not sick." He says, "I don't care what you think. We're doing a CAT scan." I said, "Okay, whatever." 23 hours later, he told me I had pancreatic cancer. So pay attention to your body and some of these signs. Some of the other signs are mild nausea, dark urine, light stools, persistent constipation, and jaundice. Jaundice being yellowing of the skin or the eyes. If you wake up one morning and you look in the mirror and your skin is yellow, you best be going to see a physician. Is this on? Okay, I'm sorry. Pancreatic cancer is a disease where you don't want to be brave. Guys especially, we go into the doctor, we forced our wife or our girlfriend forces us to go to the doctor. And we go in there and the doctor says, "How you doing? Let's do some blood work and check you out." "No, I'm fine. I got nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I'm cool. I'm macho." This is a disease that particularly likes macho people. It is persistent, and it doesn't ignore macho people. It doesn't ignore healthy people. It pays attention to everybody. So I hate to use the word warning, but I'm telling you to listen to your body and talk to your doctor. According to the National Cancer Institute, the average annual pancreatic cancer diagnosis rate in America is 12.1 cases per 100,000 people. The same report identifies Hughes County, South Dakota, which is where we are today, at around, give or take, 18 cases of pancreatic cancer per 100,000 people. Using those numbers, we could predict with some safety that in Pierce, South Dakota, and in the surrounding area in 2019, we'll have between 4 and 7 new pancreatic cancer cases in our community, which is scary. I mean, that's a very scary statistic. When I first went to the hospital, I had this really cool nurse navigator. She came in, she had her cancer care kit, and she had a cancer care kit for me. And the first words out of her mouth, she says, "You need a hug." So I got a hug, and I really needed that, by the way. And she says, "Don't look at the internet." I thought, wow, that's pretty radical, because I love the internet. I don't go to the library because I don't like to read, but I do like the internet. So for the most part, what you read on the internet about pancreatic cancer is very, very bad news. It's false information, a lot of it. I hate to use the word fake news, but I will anyway. But a lot of it is very, very bad information. And what we've done in our group is identified 4 organizations where you can get reliable information. The names of the organizations and their websites are listed in the program. Those are the Lustgarten Foundation. They're out of Woodbury, New York. Their sole purpose on this earth is to fund pancreatic cancer research. 100% of their money that's donated to them goes to pancreatic cancer research. They donated $165 million to pancreatic cancer research, and just recently contributed to 4 pancreatic cancer research facilities in terms of buildings. The second organization that I think is pretty reliable is Let's Win Pancreatic Cancer and the Foundation. They're on Facebook and they're on Twitter, and I'm on Twitter, if you can imagine. I never thought I'd say that to the world, but I am. They come out almost every day, literally every day, 2 or 3 times a day, with new information about pancreatic cancer, genetic information, new scientific information, and it's an amazing website. They have amazing updates from all of the researchers that put data into their website and Twitter. The Pancreas Cancer Action Network is a multi-faceted organization. They have comprehensive services. They basically have a help desk. They have a program for clinical trials. Multiple clinical trials if you're going to get into a position where you need clinical trials. genomics, and they have a full staff of people that answer the phone and talk to you. It's basically a pancreatic cancer help desk. A very good organization. And the American Cancer Society, their purpose in life is all cancers, but they also have a lot of information on pancreatic cancer trials, and they also provide comprehensive services. At this point, I know about two clinical trials for pancreatic cancer going on in South Dakota as we speak. That's one of the bad parts of living in South Dakota. To go to a clinical trial, most of us have to travel. And we have to leave our house, and we have to leave our family, and we got to leave our dog, and we got to go somewhere else for a clinical trial. Clinical trials are really, really important in finding a cure to this very nasty disease. So in summary, I just want to say, pay attention to your body. When you look in the mirror in the morning, you can tell. You can tell if you don't feel up to par, if you don't feel like going to work, if you just don't feel right. Listen to your body. Talk to your doctor. If you feel any of the symptoms that we talked about before, go talk to your doctor, because it's not worth the delay. If you got a doctor, and some of them don't listen, some of them won't listen to you, find one who will. Say, Doc, sorry, I'm going to find somebody who will listen to me, and go find yourself a different doctor. I say that in the presence of physicians, but I'm saying it anyway. Ask for a second opinion. Do not be shy about asking for a second opinion. If someone says your friend or your spouse or you have pancreatic cancer, don't be shy about asking for a second opinion, because that way you can sleep at night knowing that the first diagnosis that you got was either right or wrong. Do your homework. I run into a lot of pancreatic cancer people that don't know what they have. They don't know what they got till it's gone. Just like I said before, they don't know what kind of surgery they've had. They don't know what kind of chemo they're on. You got to do your homework so that you can ask valid questions and communicate with your physician. Communication is the key between you and your doctor, and you need to build a good relationship with your doctor with this disease. Exercise, and if you have pancreatic cancer, eat as much as you can. I asked my oncologist, what can I eat? And he said, you can eat anything you want. So I took the opportunity to eat the fat off a prime rib because I like it. When you're at the doctor, ask about new pancreatic cancer research. All of the oncologists that I know go to conferences all over the country, and they get new information on pancreatic cancer every time they go to one of those. I contacted the organizations that we suggested. Talk to survivors. Any of us that are survivors of pancreatic cancer, we'll be glad to talk to you. Ask any question you want. I call it cancer. People say, well, we heard you had the C word. No, I didn't. I had cancer. I don't have it today. I don't know if it's going to be gone. I don't know if it's going to kill me, but I'm here today, and I'm here to tell you that I'm going to keep doing this as long as I'm physically able to do it. In spite of the odds, never give up hope, because there's always hope. No matter what the odds are with this disease, there's always hope. And I got one last piece of advice. There are no miracle cures for pancreatic cancer in Mexico. I've had tons and tons of people tell me that there are miracle cures in Mexico for pancreatic cancer, and I'm here to tell you that's not true. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. As John sort of alluded to in his comments, there are really two sides to cancer. There's a technical side, and then there's the personal side. The technical side is about statistics and terminology and treatment, but the personal side is about people, and that's why we're here today, and that's who we're celebrating today. The people impacted by pancreatic cancer, whether they're family members, friends, coworkers, neighbors. Here to lead us in honoring them, I'd like to reintroduce someone who sang for us earlier, pancreatic cancer survivor, Mr. Ben Orsbon.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad John could explain all that kind of stuff about adenocarcinoma, neuroendocrine tumors, and all those kinds of things, because I don't understand very much about it. But we're here today to honor family, loved ones, and caregivers that have suffered with us. Cancer doesn't care who it hurts. It doesn't care about us or the ones we love. It doesn't care if we take care of ourselves and exercise every day. It doesn't care if we are mothers or fathers that need to care for our family. It doesn't care if we are old, weak, and have given the best years of our lives caring for others. Pancreatic cancer is especially cruel and callous. It doesn't care who you are. You can be a singer, Aretha Franklin, actor and dancer, Patrick Swayze, Apple computer giant, Steve Jobs, Little House on the Prairie creator, Michael Landon, Moon River composer, Henry Mancini, opera tenor, Luciano Pavarotti, father of the space program, Wernher von Braun, astronaut, Sally Ride, jazz giant, the Count Basie, Supreme Court Justice, Ruth Ginsburg, or many of us in this room. It wants to weaken our body and hurt us, and those that love us. We recognize its power to inflict pain and suffering, but it deserves no respect. It brings no benefits. All its power is negative. But its power is not stronger than love. And one day its power will not be stronger than medical science. One day, science will defeat it. It injures and destroys, but it can't destroy love and caring. They have more power. Today we celebrate that power of love, caring, and healing by reading the names of individuals we choose to honor. As the names are read, with those who submitted the names, please stand along with anyone else that would like to stand. And if you're willing, remain standing until all the names are read. After all the names are read, then we'll break the glow sticks. And I apologize now if I mispronounce any of the names or if I miss anyone. Dale D. Hegg, Dr. Joseph Cash, Joan Deal, Reva Stedman, Dwight Hurst, Lee Ham, Levon Enkelke, John Moisen, Janet Fritzke, Agnes Fluke, Russell Brockle, Brian Cos Kozum, Gary Opp, Joanne Cash, Lee Osborne, Alice Norman, Shane Croman, Julie Bickle, Gary Timmerman, Dr. Richard Holm, Marie McIntyre, and me, Ben Orsberg. This afternoon, we're here to support and to remember and to celebrate and to keep the light of hope alive for those fighting pancreatic cancer. If you'd like, please break your glow sticks. Mr. Bob Parliament, would you do the honors, please?
Let us light the Capitol purple for pancreatic cancer awareness.
Wonderful job of the Righteous Brothers Unchained Melody. That was the T.F. Riggs Chamber Choir under the direction of Mr. Rod Bauk, accompanied by Karen Lynn Bloom. Today's keynote speaker, Dr. Gary Timmerman, is a good example of the extraordinary paths people take to get where they're meant to be. He began his college career at SDSU in Brookings, and after 3 years there was admitted to medical school in 1980, despite not having a college degree. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in medicine at the USD School of Medicine, went on to graduate from the Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, Missouri in May of 1984, and in December of that same year, he finally graduated from SDSU, receiving an honorary Bachelor of Science degree in science. Dr. Timmerman did his residency at Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's Medical Center in Chicago, Illinois. He's been on staff at medical facilities in Chicago, Watertown, and Sioux Falls, and has active staff privileges at Sanford USD Medical Center, Royal C. Johnson VA Hospital, and the Freeman Regional Hospital. He's been a faculty member at 3 universities, a member of 11 fellowships and medical organizations, led and/or served on 16 medical and non-medical committees, earned numerous scholarships and awards, been published 13 times, and is a fellow and regent with the American College of Surgeons. Now that's the path of Gary Timmerman, the doctor. Here's the path of Gary Timmerman, the man. He comes from a healing family. He has 3 brothers, 2 of which are oncologists. One is a family practitioner. He has a loving family of his own, raising sons Christopher and Adam and daughter Ashley with his wife Gina Ann. His impressive medical skills are backed by his equally impressive faith. During the many surgeries he's performed, God has always been by his side. We are honored to have him with us today. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Gary Timmerman.
Boy, nothing like a little pressure before one gets started. Can you hear me okay? So all of you that know John is rather insistent. John told me, whatever you do, make sure you instill hope and inspiration. And by the way, you're talking about pancreatic cancer. Well, truth be told, I'm the last guy you want to see when you've been told you had pancreatic cancer. Basically, I'm going to be talking about 3 things: where we've been, where we're at today, and where we're heading. A surgeon's perspective. Some numbing statistics. Can't be a surgeon if you don't have statistics. roughly 50 to 55,000 people in the United States will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer of some form this year. Of those 50 to 55,000, an average of 40 to 45,000 will die of that same diagnosis. Because it is so lethal, it is the fourth leading cause of cancer death in the U.S. Yet, it only occurs in 10 to 11% as far as the rank in which it's ordered. Sadly, only 15 to 20% of those diagnosed with pancreatic cancer are even an operative candidate. That means they come see me. 80 to 85% are inoperable at the time of diagnosis. Thereby, the overall scary cure rate, if you took all people combined, is only around 8.5%. So what good news can there be after that? Well, let's go from the beginning. Historically, pancreatic cancer was 100% fatal. The only surgery at the time it was diagnosed was for palliation. What does that mean? It means we just make you comfortable. It usually causes jaundice or bowel obstruction. And so we did operations that could allow you to live out your life in a reasonably comfortable fashion. Unfortunately, even with that surgery, prior to the 1900s, nearly all were all dead within 6 months to a year. We would open and close far too often. This is where you've heard the term. You know, the surgeon opened him up, it got exposed to air, and he was dead in 3 months. How many have heard that? Yeah. Thank you, pancreatic cancer. That's not true. We like to think, because we felt so well as John did, because we know those individuals that were just doing everything, living life, and were dead within 6 months, that it had to be the air. It had to be something we did. We turned it loose. This is a nasty cancer. And the reason it's nasty is because it rarely by itself causes a symptom. In John's case, it caused him to have weight loss. Well, knowing John, I'm sure he was bragging about his weight loss, because it's pretty easy to think, gosh, at my age, I'm losing weight instead of my dad who put on 50 pounds. I'm doing well. Well, unfortunately, that's the sort of symptom that pancreatic cancer gives you. None. Until it affects a secondary system, like the passageway from the liver, and it causes blockage and the subsequent yellowing and the jaundice and the dark urine and the itching. Or worse yet, it can be in the tail of the pancreas, where it gives zero symptoms until it causes a bowel obstruction, or it causes unexplained weight loss beyond that which you'd ever think. Don't think, as a surgeon, every time I step on a scale and I've lost 5 pounds, it doesn't cross my mind. This is what I do, especially as I get older. So around 1934, there was a surgeon by the name of Whipple. How many have heard of the Whipple operation? Hey, listen, until I became a surgeon, the only Whipple I knew was pushing Charmin toilet paper, right? Don't squeeze the Charmin, Mr. Whipple would always say. Unbelievable that such a benign character could be associated with such a radical operation. He did the very first operation called a pancreaticoduodenectomy, and I won't bore you with all the terminology. Let's just say it is the biggest abdominal operation you can do to somebody. Save perhaps a liver transplant, which, by the way, now can be done within a matter of 1 or 2 hours. Whipples still take between 3.5 and 7 to 8 hours long. But even with the Whipple operation, unfortunately, we saw cure rates only now extend from 0 to 5%. And not only that, the price for that 5% was extremely high. The operative mortality, what is that? That's the chance of you dying as a result of your surgery within 30 days, was over 50%. A 50% chance of dying for a 5% cure rate. Complication rate well over 60%. And unfortunately, most of these people were dramatically affected up to the day they died of their cancer after the operation that was done to cure them. I can tell you, and Dr. Holm will confirm, that up until about the 1970s and 80s, surgeons were actually looking seriously at this operation and saying, you know, we've made little to no impact. Why are we doing this? And there was about a 5-year span where they quit doing or teaching the Whipple operation because they thought it was a wasted procedure. And they actually returned to palliation. They actually returned to peek and shriek, we call it, which means we open and close. How's that for good news? Yeah, not so great. So what's changed? Well, where are we today? Well, today, there are those surgeons that said, no, we have to try to keep doing this. We can refine this. We can do this operation safer with better outcomes. And if we can get people to live, maybe we can find out why they lived and others didn't. And so they came up with what they called high-volume centers, which were places that did the Whipple operation and pancreatic resection with reasonable regularity. And they proved if they were done in those facilities, morbidity and mortality fell. Remember, the odds of you dying were around 50%. Today, the odds of you dying from the same operation, in fact, even more radical, is down to less than 5%, where the average range today is 3.2%. Complication rates, still high, 3 times what I'd like, but down to around 25 to 30%. In addition to better technique, we have new drugs. There's this combination cocktail called FOLFIRINOX, which is 5-FU, oxyplatinum, iridicaine, and leucovorin. I won't bore you with the details, but they found out that combination drugs did better than singular drugs. And then there's radiation. It's what my little brother does. He's a radiation cancer doctor down in Dallas, Texas. I told him to get a real job. But that aside, radiation went from, why don't we sit you under the x-ray machine and turn the switch on, leave it on for 15 or 20 seconds, then turn it off and see what happens, to now an actual discipline in which they measure the amount of radiation and can effectively kill cancer at its source. The other thing in the last 10 years of my practice has been the advent of what we call neoadjuvant. By the time you're done, there'll be a test, so I'm hoping you're writing all this down. Neoadjuvant, what's that? That means we give it before we operate. What? Imagine me telling a patient, we're going to operate on you, but not for 3 months. Doc, I've got a cancer in me. The reality of pancreatic cancer is we don't tend to die from what we call local disease. We don't die because it's right there in the pancreas. We die because it got out. Someone left the barn door open, and it went to the lungs and the liver and the bone and the brain. The idea of treating the chemotherapy up front was the idea that we are going to kill the cancer where it's already gotten to. We assume it's gotten there. How much? 85% we assume, because that's how many people still die today of that cancer. That's a pretty safe assumption. So we assume it's already out of the barn, and we're going to treat it up front. So we give the chemotherapy first. And what that did was allow us to see what happened to the tumor over 3 months or so, because when they're done with that chemotherapy, we re-image them, is the term. We look. And hot spit, the big tumors shrunk. Hot spit, the lesions in the lung got smaller. We figured we might be onto something here. And we took cancers that on that initial CAT scan, we would say, I'm sorry, we can't take it out because it's involving veins and arteries that are too big. And if we take those out, you won't survive. To where we call them now borderline cancers. in which we look at it today and we say, that's borderline. And we give them the chemotherapy, we bring them back in 3 months, and lo and behold, over 50% of those I now take to surgery. And of those 50%, we can get it out? No, probably better than that, 70%. That's opening a door, because remember I said if we can resect, we can improve survival. So the stats with this new treatment today are still, though, reflective of how far the disease has gone. Before, we just took all disease together because there was nothing we can do. To where today, unfortunately, metastatic disease still commands a 5 to 10% cure rate, the lowest. But if the cancer is contained within the pancreas, maybe some lymph nodes positive around it, our cure rates jump to 15, perhaps even 20%. And if I can get the whole blasted thing out with no nodes and clear margins, it's better than 40%. Geez, Timmerman, that's it? The reason for the talk is to tell you where we came from and where we are today. We're farther along now. So John's voice in the back of my head is still saying, remember, instill hope and inspiration. So how am I doing so far? A little bit? So the future, where are we going? Well, we have the status quo, which to me is still not acceptable. But we have found that with research and with better technology, we can actually find the cancer in a smaller amount. In other words, if I can find the cancer in you before you get a symptom, your chance of cure is in that 40% almost immediately. You get it? Rather than waiting till it spreads and you drop down to less than 20%. So we have improved imaging. There's what we call, it's cool, it's like Star Wars, 3D CT. I really don't know what that means, but they tell me, and I'll bet they can charge more. There's MRI. There's EUS. Guys, I go to school just to keep up with all the acronyms and I go alphabet soup. EUS means endoscopic ultrasound. Everybody knows what ultrasound, right? Babies, right? Gallstones. This is an ultrasound that they look down your throat with the scope, and it's on the end of that thing, and they can go right through the stomach and look at the tumor. Whoa, dude, that's awesome. And then guess what else they can do? They can stick a needle and biopsy that all the same time. Again, with the intent to find the thing smaller than bigger. And then there's ERCP, which I won't go into because it's too long, other than to say it cannulates the pancreatic passageway called the duct and gives us an idea where the blockage is. And because of that, they can put in the same sort of little stents that they put in your heart when you have a heart attack, which opens the passageway and makes a jaundiced person no longer jaundiced. And if the person's no longer jaundiced, that means their liver's working. And if their liver's working and we start giving them an operation that takes 4 to 6 hours long, they can handle all the drugs that anesthesia gives them. And if they can do that, their survival rate goes from 50% down to 3% as far as dying from that operation. Do you see what technology has opened the door for us? And then there's, of course, the populations. You know, who remembers the HIV epidemic? You guys, that was it, right? That was it, end of the world. HIV, you can't have sex anymore, we're all gonna die. That's God punishing, whatever you wanna call it. HIV, when it was in one population, that's their problem. When it affected everybody, it was everybody's problem. And it became the most researched disease in the history of mankind. That meant everybody was pouring money into that research. And out of that came genomics. Out of that came DNA studies. Out of that came sequencing. That they said, this won't help the HIV patient, but let's put that on the back shelf and see if it might help a cancer. And those back shelves became lymphoma and leukemia. and other cancers, which we now cure almost all the time. I used to operate on lymphoma all the time. I cannot remember the last time I operated on a lymphoma. If you want to say thank you, HIV, that was a result. And out of that terrifying time came insight, knowledge, research, and cure. So much so that now, who's heard of BRCA? BRCA's breast cancer. Come on, ladies. It increases your chance of getting cancer before you get it. So much so that women are getting prophylactic mastectomies. That came out of genetic research as a result of HIV study, etc., which now, guess who we're pointing that gun at? Pancreatic cancer. That's where the future is. That's where there's hope. There's these NCCN guidelines. As you heard, there's at least 2 ongoing in South Dakota. All of these guidelines, all these treatment regimes, all these new drugs that were never there before, now added to surgery, have increased survival. New biomarkers. The trend is to get away from what I do. Boy, if my mom knew what I did for a living. The surgery the surgery I do, those in the room that know what a Whipple is, talk about not thinking you're worthy to do an operation of that magnitude and be able to do it is so cool. My mom's really proud of it. But if she saw me, she'd say, "What did I raise?" The truth is, I want to be out of a job. I don't want to do that operation. I don't want to do that to another human being. What's cool? Laparoscopic. In my lifetime, I trained 100% to take all gallbladders out through a big incision in your right upper quadrant. When's the last time anybody heard getting it done open? When they do, they call the dinosaur, me, because I'm the only one that knows how to do it anymore. None of my young residents have even seen it. When I do an open gallbladder of any kind, they're there because they're watching the old guy, because they all do it. How? Laparoscopic. And guess what the new wave? Robot. Yeah, and I know the people that do them. And I'm in awe of them because the people go home in such short times. They get better faster, and again, reducing mortality and morbidity. That coupled with chemotherapy, and they're going to be thinking that operation is as easy as having your gallbladder taken out today. Well, as I said, my prayer is to be out of a job. Listen, this is a horrible, despicable cancer, now finally thrust into the light of the public eye. Research, money, and events like this will all advance earlier detection and improve cure rates, as we have seen over the last 50 years. Though today, acceptable cure rates remain elusive, they're still not as high as we want. Nonetheless, people, including those in this room, are living longer after the diagnosis. That allows us to extend research to those people to find out, why did you live and someone else didn't? Can we get your DNA? Can we find out what made you unique? It extends research opportunities. And ultimately, John, inspiring that hope that we here today celebrate. For cancer that was once totally fatal and whose time has now come. So, try your best not to be a fatalist about this sort of cancer. Fear is a song. Fear is powerful. Fear is a liar. All of you, be overcomers. There is hope. Thank you.
Well, I think Dr. Timmerman definitely hit the hope and inspiration with his speech, along with some humor and humanity, which are two things I personally always look for in a good doctor. So thank you for being with us this afternoon. Of the many voices silenced by pancreatic cancer, one of the most powerful quieted this year was that of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, who passed away on August 16th. Songwriter, performer, and icon. But as we talked about earlier today, we're also talking about the personal side of people. She was also a mother and a grandmother, in addition to all of the ways we knew her as her public persona. In tribute to this amazing woman, here's a song recorded by Aretha Franklin in 1968, I Say a Little Prayer, performed by Mariah Gross. Miss Mariah Gross was accompanied by Karen Lindblom. I'd also like to mention that Mariah is the director of the Peer Youth Orchestra, so we feel very fortunate to have her with us this afternoon. The support for those fighting pancreatic cancer and the remembrance of those who lost the battle extends far beyond the Capitol Rotunda we're sitting in today. It covers the whole state of South Dakota. And here to read a proclamation from Governor Dennis Daugaard, please welcome Mr. Tony Mangan.
Executive Proclamation, State of South Dakota, Office of the Governor. Whereas, more than 115 people in South Dakota are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer every year, affecting men and women nearly equally in our state. And
Whereas there is no known screening for pancreatic cancer and no specific prevention, and rarely shows symptoms early and only non-specific symptoms after spreading, with 80% of cases in South Dakota diagnosed at the late stage. And whereas pancreatic cancer spreads rapidly with the 5-year survival rate for South Dakotans diagnosed with pancreatic cancer estimated at just 8%. And whereas more than 100 South Dakotans will die from pancreatic cancer this year, adding to the 1,736 South Dakotans who have died from the disease since 2001. And whereas more than an estimated 55,000 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States this year, and more than 43,000 Americans will die from the deadly disease, making pancreatic cancer the third leading cause of cancer deaths in the United States. And whereas the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, Les Garden Foundation, Let's Win Pancreatic Cancer, American Cancer Society, and their affiliates in South Dakota support patients battling pancreatic cancer and the friends and the families of those who have lost their lives to the disease. And whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of South Dakota are enhanced by increased awareness about pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatment. Now, therefore, I, Dennis Daugaard, Governor of the state of South Dakota, proclaim November 2018 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Month in South Dakota. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed with the great seal of the state of South Dakota in Pierre, the capital city, this 25th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2018. Signed by Governor Dennis Daugaard, attested by Chantel Krebs, Secretary of State.
Thank you, Tony. If you attended last year's ceremony, you may recall the inspiring words of our 2017 keynote speaker, co-host and medical editor of South Dakota Public Television's On Call with the Prairie Doc program, Dr. Richard Holm. He's not only a great speaker, he is also an exceptional singer. Here to perform a musical solo for us, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Richard Holm.
Let's just say singer. Gary, that was a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. All right, I've got a technical thing to do here, and this will be interesting maybe for you. I have for maybe 5 years or so, I've been a director of a choir, not quite this beautiful choir, but a choral group from the community, from all the churches, and we meet at about 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights for about 20 minutes at a common spot, and then we go sing for somebody in need of a hopeful spirit. So we sing for cancer patients oftentimes. As the medical director of our oncology, our hospice in our community, I get a little bit of a extra word on who's available and who would be a good person to sing to. And we oftentimes will go into their homes or into the hospital. Sometimes we sing in an assisted living or a nursing home. And so a week ago, knowing that I was going to come out here and sing and not asking for any of those people in my choir to be dragged out, I did record the third verse of 2 songs. And so I might have them accompany me after I sing a little bit for you. But you've got to do this in tune if you're going to have the choir join you, you know. So bear with me and I will find the tune. There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar, for the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. Come on. And the next song, and I just give you a feeling about what this is. You know, some of us who's had the Whipple procedure 2 years ago, after chemo and radiation, and then have a recurrence of it in the liver, I'm right there at the reality that I know we all will not survive this experience of life, but mine may be shortened. Chances are pretty good. Percentages aren't on my side. But there's something about the beauty of the Spirit that keeps me overjoyed and filled with courage and without the fear. And to be honest with you, as I face this high potential for dying, it's the Spirit within you that I can feel, that is enhanced by the music, that fills me with such joy as we sing. I'll give you one more song. It's the one that the choir loves the most, probably. See if I've got the right song. I've got to hit the right tone. Here it is. That's the right song, and I need to have the right tune, and so we'll go right to the A flat. When peace like a river attended my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. Now sing with me again. And Lord, haste the day
when my face shall be starry, the clouds roll back as the scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. Now, everybody, you got this one now? You ready? Soprano. Men. It is well with my soul. I got a little drag. It is well. It is well with my soul. Thank you, everybody.
I think I'm going to go ahead and stand by my description of that as exceptional singing. Now, earlier this month, cancer patients in Central South Dakota got a new source of hope and a new home for treatment when the Helmsley Cancer Center opened at Avera St. Mary's Hospital here in Pierre. Ms. Kelly Ackley of Avera St. Mary's Foundation is here to tell us more. Please welcome her.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, John, for inviting me to be here. A year ago, I stood in front of you and said, we've got a little ways to go. We had $2.5 million to raise in 2.5 years. Quick math tells you that's $100,000 a month. That's a lot. But you know what? We did it. Not only did we do it, we did it in 2 years. $2.5 million was raised within this community to match a generous gift from the Helmsley Charitable Trust of that $2.5 million. A total of $12.5 million was designated for the Helmsley Center, specifically for the Avera Cancer Institute. We had a dream, we had hope, and we built it. And the proof is already here. They are coming. Our numbers have already reached projection numbers of folks coming to us for their treatment. And we are so excited to have our new radiation oncologist, Dr. Daniel Tackett, on staff. Very, very soon, we will have radiation oncology treatments available here. They're thinking close to the 1st of December. And when that day happens, I'm gonna go, woo! Because it has been a long, long time coming. The number of miles, the number of dollars spent on treatment, spent on travel, so that people in our area could receive oncology treatments through radiation, far surpassed that $2.5 million that we raised here. And I am so proud of this community and so proud of the folks that helped us get there, because every dollar mattered. Every one of you mattered. And I could not be more excited to see where we go in the future of cancer care in Central South Dakota. We have changed the vision here. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for participating in our Helmsley Center Challenge, and I'm honored to be with you today.
Thanks, Kelly, for sharing that good news with us. Today has been a time of remembrance and celebration. In their final performance of this afternoon, here's the T.F. Riggs Chamber Choir to sing Purple Rain by Prince. dedicated to everyone impacted by pancreatic cancer.
Never meant to cause you any sorrow. Never meant to cause you any pain. I only wanted one time to see you laughing. I only wanted to see you laughing in the purple rain. Honey, I know times are changing. All I wanna be is some kind of friend. Baby, I could never steal you from another. It's such a shame our friendship had to end. Honey, I know times are changing. It's time we all reach for something new, and that means you too. You may want a leader, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better change it, and let me guide you to the purple rain.
Let's stand. Grateful we are, O Lord, wearing purple, remembering loved ones. In ancient times, purple dye was rare, and such clothing showed a royal bearing. Jesus, in perfect sacrificial love, accepted the worst of human suffering, being mocked and robed with a purple cloak. In our churches today, we use purple to show our need for your merciful love as we prepare for Christmas and Easter. In military, we honor those demonstrating courage with grace under fire with the medal of the Purple Heart. When we bruise, purple skin is healing. In all these situations, we draw on your mighty power, O God, ever close to your people, those deceased that we honor with these luminaries, and those living that we support. From this gathering, send us forth, your beloved sons and daughters, to stand with those with pancreatic cancer, to bring healing to hurting hearts, to be a light of hope in a world often too dark. Grateful we are, Lord, and the people say, Amen.
Thank you to Father Ron. That was Father Ron Gary, St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Fort Pierre. As we conclude our 2018 Light the Capitol Purple ceremony, on behalf of the event committee, I'd like to thank our speakers and musical guests this afternoon, Reverend Brad Urbach, Ben Orstbaum, Alyssa Kaler, John Moisen, Bob Parliman, the T.F. Riggs Chamber Choir and Director Rod Bauk, Dr. Gary Timmerman, Mariah Gross, Tony Mangan, Dr. Richard Holm, Kelly Ackley, and Father Ron Gary. Also helping to make this afternoon's ceremony possible, thanks to Jim Zana, Karen Lindblom, Julie Pollack, Ryan Sheldon and Armor Sound, Beck Motors, Raleigh Isaacson and the State of South Dakota Office of Buildings and Grounds, Scott Bollinger, the Riggs High School Student Senate and their advisors, Avera St. Mary's Foundation and the Helmsley Center, Dakota Radio Group, Oahe TV, Riverfront Broadcasting, the Pure Capital Journal, South Dakota Broadcasters Association, and South Dakota Public Broadcasting. Before you leave today, if you haven't already, please stop and visit the information tables that are located on either side of the main stairway to learn more about pancreatic cancer. We'd also like to say thank you to the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, represented by Steve and Sue Yadwabnik of Sioux Falls, the Lustgarten Foundation, Let's Win Pancreatic Cancer, and the American Cancer Society, represented by Tanya Kreitlow. Thank you, everyone, for coming today and being part of our celebration. You know, there's not only strength in numbers, there's hope in numbers, too. And the more people who join the fight against pancreatic cancer, the greater that victory is going to be when it comes. Thank you again for coming. Have a nice evening.
I never meant to cause you any pain. Only wanted one time, see you laughing. Only want to see you laughing in the purple rain, purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple Avenue. That means you too. You say you want a leader, but you can't make up your mind. Think you better close. Let me guide you to the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. I only wanna see you, only wanna see you in the purple rain. Thank you guys, thank you very much, Howard Stern, you're amazing, happy birthday, we love you.